Remember Donald Trump's promise that foreign countries would, quote, eat his so-called Liberation Day tariffs, meaning you, the American consumer, would not have to pay for his tariff vanity project? Well, the bills are piling up, and they're overwhelmingly not being paid overseas. According to a new report from the New York Federal Reserve, average tariff rates are now more than 10% higher than they were a year ago. And here's the key number. Roughly 90% of those added costs are being absorbed by U.S. businesses and American consumers, not foreign governments. And the political cracks are showing. Earlier this week, 6 House Republicans broke with the White House and voted with Democrats to overturn Trump's tariffs on Canada, defying an intense pressure campaign from the administration. That bill now heads to the Senate, which already voted to reject Trump's tariffs on Canada and several other countries last October. Joining us now is Juanita Tolliver, MS Now political analyst and host of the History podcast, Archival, and Heather Long, chief economist for the Navy Federal Credit Union. Thanks for both joining us on set this morning. Heather, is this going to be the thing that Republicans actually cross the Rubicon for and fully rebuff Trump on?
Well, they have to, and we're already starting to see it this week. I mean, the root here is the affordability crisis. Now, to be fair, it started before President Trump, but the Republicans own this now. Mm-hmm. And, sure, they got some pretty good inflation data this week, but for many middle-class and lower-income Americans, you still have electricity prices rising faster than inflation. You have housing costs rising faster than people's wages are, certainly medical care, child care, and housing. And these are the main items that most people are spending the bulk of their money on. And it just really hasn't improved in the past year, and some areas have gotten worse.
Well, on something else, Heather, I want to stick with you here. People looking at the jobs numbers that came out this week, the economy added 130,000 jobs in January. Unemployment fell to 4.3%. Consumer prices rose 2.4% annually in January, less than expected. A lot of people look at that and go, "Oh my God, everything is great." But I'm sticking with you here because, as you have said in many interviews with us and with me on Last Word, that last year there had not been a single job created since what month?
Well, virtually no.
Virtually
job
no
creation,
job.
If you exclude healthcare. Healthcare is the only sector that's hiring. But since April, since those tariffs went into effect, we really see a hiring recession in both blue-collar and white-collar industries. And that's why another reason people are feeling anxious.
So is this 130,000 job creation? Is that a blip? And should we expect to see that number revised downward when the February numbers come out?
Well, it wouldn't be surprising to see a little bit downward revision. But the big problem for the White House is a lot of the economy is being driven by artificial intelligence, the AI boom now. And the AI boom giveth high stocks and a lot of GDP growth, but it taketh away in terms of what's going on with this hiring recession, as I've been calling it. Mm-hmm. And that's why people are feeling the anxiety. The middle class is wondering, when do I feel the results of all of this growth?
Yeah, because the president is talking about high GDP and your 401ks are great. That is not every American out there,
if you have those accounts.
If you're an American that has a 401k, and if you're someone who will get the benefits early on of the GDP, one of the things that's really interesting is when Trump hates anyone voting against him. We know that. But here's a threat he threw out about Republicans who vote against his tariffs on Canada, which they already did. Any Republican in the House or the Senate that votes against tariffs will seriously, in all caps, tariffs, suffer the consequences come election time. And that includes primaries, exclamation point. Now, sure, the president does these threats all the time. Yeah. But what I have found, and I think a lot of people have found, is that the threat is empty because he does a tweet, he endorses your primary opponent, but he pops up, at the district hanging out with the primary opponent. It's not like his PAC sends a lot of money to the primary opponent.
He maybe might call in the night before the election.
Maybe, the night when it's too late. And so my question is, are Republicans starting to understand that the empty threats are empty, and that at the end of the day, they need to be thinking about their own hides.
That
November.
part. This is about survival explicitly. And when Trump talks about consequences come the election, I think that's less about Trump's threat and more about the people in their districts, the people who are small business owners, the people who are struggling to pay their basic needs. And as you mentioned, the laundry list of those needs keeps expanding.
It was a very long
Come
list,
on. But I think the other part is when someone like Don Bacon, he's like, I'm out, so I have no problem bucking the system. But then you have these 5 other Republicans who are not retiring, who are looking at the concerns being raised by their consumers in their districts and the people who own businesses, and they're saying, okay, I got to do something now because I know that Democrats are going to take this vote and blast it in every ad, blast it in every phone script, every door knocking script to tell people in my district, I'm supporting Trump's effort to keep costs high for you.
I wonder, Heather, if this is also what we're seeing, an uprising against the transactional governance that we've seen from this Trump administration. I mean, the efforts that Trump underwent to try to convince Don Bacon to vote with Republicans on this were really interesting, right? They went to a bunch of private businesses in his district and said that they would give them exceptions and loopholes. Then you have Trump this week complaining about the way that the leader in Switzerland talked to him about tariffs. Actually, let's play that soundbite, and I'll finish my question on the other side.
I got an emergency call from, I believe, the Prime Minister of Switzerland, and she was very aggressive, but nice, but very aggressive. Sir, we are a small country. We can't do this. We can't do this. I couldn't get her off the phone. I didn't really like the way she talked to us. And so instead of giving her a reduction, I raised it to 39%.
Instead of giving her a reduction, he raised it because he didn't like the way she spoke to him. Is this also a rejection of this approach that Republicans feel like they can't engage with something that is so blatantly quid pro quo?
Right, mercurial. How does the president feel today sets our tariff rates. I mean, you can hear the House Speaker talking about really hoping that the Supreme Court overturns the national emergency tariff powers that the president is using to throw out these one-day tariff is this, one-day tariff is that, because that is not helpful to the business community. And if we go back to why do we have a hiring recession going on right now, what business wants to hire in this environment where I don't know what my costs will be, in a week from now, because it depends if the president follows through on these threats, like 100% threat to our Canadian neighbors, 100% tariff. That's where you see Republicans and the business community saying, hold on here. This is not an environment that makes a lot of sense for American growth.
It's also just so anathema to the free market orthodoxy that has defined the Republican Party for so long.
Because it's not the Republican Party, it's the Trump Party.
Right.
And I think we're going to see how much of a drain that is going to have on voters in a couple of different ways. I'm talking specifically about the seat won by a Democrat in a deep red district in Texas, the margin in Tennessee, 7, jumping from 24 that Trump won it by in 2024 down to single digits. Republicans are sick of this. Trump is going to be a drag on them come these midterms because his margin of victory from 2024 is disintegrating in real time with every single one of these decisions because people feel it in real time.
And at the end, they're mad. Well, the thing that's so interesting is that they are learning the hard way, just like the Biden folks did, that the American people are going to blame who is ever in the White House, who's ever in power, if the changes don't happen and they don't happen.
Well,
fast,
I think it's, what's that In Vogue song? Give him something he can feel.
Yes.
Like that's what voters are going to be
Exactly.
reacting to. And not just who they vote for, but if they show up in the first place, enthusiasm is going to continue to decline among Republican voters. And again, Trump's going to be that drag.